So we are now recording. And good morning and welcome to our graduation power hour. Today we're focusing on building community partnerships, how we can use our partnerships to help support graduation 2023 and beyond. I will be leading us through this, Lisa Height with the state support team, and here helping me out, keeping track of the chat room and letting people into the session is Aaron Weisbrod. Aaron, if you want to say good morning.
Morning, everyone. It's good to see all of you. I will be hiding in the background, dropping in links, and like Lisa said, if you have any questions as we go, feel free to drop them in the chat, and we'll make sure those get addressed periodically throughout the presentation.
Right. So I do have a lot jam-packed into this session today. Hopefully I don't have to skip anything at the end if we run out of time. And a little bit different this time, I did build in some places if you have questions. So we will get started. Maybe if I can. And just to recap, we've been doing these graduation power hour sessions. This is probably our third one this year. And so far we have covered the career advising policy. Just as a reminder, that actually began in 2015, 2016. And what's embedded in that career advising policy is that career advising for students grades 6 through 12, career connections. The law actually says 6 through 12, but Ohio, through their career connections framework, which will be a future session as well, career connections framework looks at actually K through 12, and then success plans. We had a separate session on success plans. Those are required for any student at risk for graduation, grades 6 through 12. We talked about graduation plans, and you saw the sample from ODE. And then graduation 2023, that's the CCR, the credits, competency, and readiness. And so just to think about that CCR, right, our long-term is what they're referring to it as the long-term graduation requirements. And I do want to stress that while it has changed over the last couple of years, graduation, especially through COVID, I'm not sure that we should be telling our students that this will change. I recently was at a family dinner, and I have a nephew who's a freshman, and his mom said, "Oh yeah, we had the graduation meeting, but the principal said, oh, don't worry about this. It'll probably change." I'm advising you, please don't say that. We have to be prepared in case it doesn't change, right? And there's a lot that goes on with graduation 2023. The long-term graduation, it's not something that you can or should put off until senior year to worry about. There are many things that we should be tracking 9th grade through 12th grade so that it's a smooth, easy graduation process and not, as Aaron likes to call it, and I have adopted saying it, the senior surprise, right? So graduation 2023 is the credits, the competency, and the readiness. We did show you the website for graduation, so I'm going to just quickly take you there again to remind you that you go to this page and scan down, and then it's the class of 2023 and beyond where you would click on that to get to the graduation requirements. Ohio's long-term graduation requirements: course completion, which is your credits, demonstrating competency, and demonstrating readiness. Those are your seals. And then we do have for each seal now, really cool what those seals look like. And then also when you click on a seal, it takes you to more detailed information about that seal, what it takes to earn the seal. So just a refresher reminder that those resources are there for you. And a little bit of fun here to help you remember the CCR. We've got Creedence Clearwater Revival, which is a documentary on Netflix right now. I have not watched it, but I thought I would share that just for a little fun. So today we are connecting community, business, and industry partnerships to that long-term graduation, to graduation and beyond. There actually are connections between credits, competency, and readiness where your business and community partnerships can help your students to achieve those things. So when we think about graduation and using our partnerships, right? So the what is graduation, or maybe the why is graduation. Why are we partnering with our communities? It's about graduation. And how do we achieve graduation? It's through partnerships. What will we do with those partnerships? How do they connect? They connect to all three areas, to credits, to competency, and to readiness. And so we'll go over all of those with you today. I'd like you to start first by thinking about a student. So think about a student, freshman, age 15. They have been found not to qualify for alternate assessment, but they do have a third grade reading level. They like working outside. They like the ag area, but their local career center does not offer any ag programs that they're interested in. So you've got this student. They've maybe had some struggles with school, but they're not qualified for alternate assessment, right? So their graduation pathway will not be all those first choices. And so I want you to think about that student as we move through this presentation. Do you know any students like this, right? If you know a student like this, go ahead and put a name in the chat. We've got a Seth. Okay, so I'll try to remember to refer to this. Aaron likes to call him these creepy little guys. I think they're actually cute little guys. We'll call this young little person here Seth, because he pops back up a little bit in the presentation. So if we talk about credits and those 20 credits, I think the first thought is, where would business and industry partnerships come into play when we're talking about credits? That's what we're teaching. But actually, there is a way that through our electives that you could use your business and industry partnerships to help you with the elective credits. With your flex credit policies, there may be ways, and you've been given this flexibility. You've been given permission to think outside the box, that you could use your businesses, your community partnerships, and provide elective credit for that student, either during the school day or outside of the school day. Maybe a student is interested in graphic design, and you have a local graphic design company. If that student were to go there and say, leave school the last period of the day and go work for 2 hours every day, the teacher is just maybe a teacher of record. And then you can count that as an elective. Now, there are some ways you have to do that, and I do have later in the presentation some links for you, but it really comes down to your credit flex policy. So making sure that you're looking at that credit flex policy and looking at ways that you can allow for your students to go out into industry, to go out into the community, and count that as credit. It's doable. You need a partnership to do it with. You may need to think about a specific student. So if you think about our little buddy Seth, right, and he likes that ag industry, maybe there's a local farmer. Maybe you have a mega farm in your school district. There are ways that you can make connections. I know, like around there's a chicken farm or a turkey mega farm. We've got a couple of different dairy farms that are mega farms, but there are lots of local farmers all over. There are greenhouses, right? There are nurseries down here by Bowling Green. There is a 100-acre nursery. That's where they grow trees, right? So lots of opportunities of ways that you could say to a student, you know, I know you really like this and we don't offer it, but if you can find someone who will hire you or even just let you come work for a couple of hours every day, that would give you the same amount of time in class, and we come up with some learning standards, we can count that as an elective through our flex credit policy. So even in your credits component, you can use your business and industry partners to help your students achieve credits. And then if you think about the readiness component, that's our graduation seals. There are several of these, and I will talk more about them in detail as we move forward. But you could use your business and industry partnerships for your Ohio Means Jobs Readiness Seal. That's an easy one, right? Because we know that one typically involves an employer, but it could also involve a local agency or a community agency. The industry recognized credential, for that one, if you're thinking about maybe placing a student into, like I said, that garden center and letting them work, they may earn enough knowledge just through that they could test for an IRC, an industry recognized credential that is connected to that industry. And they're not getting the content from you, the school, but they're getting it through their employment. That works as well. If you have a local nursing home that is hiring your students and they're training them to be STNAs. Sorry, I've got to admit a couple people here, right? So if you've got a local nursing home and they are hiring your students and training them to be STNAs, even though your local school district is not the one providing the content, you've just partnered with the business community and that student now has an industry recognized credential. And that happens a lot. Often it's our career center kids or our career tech education students who choose that pathway, but not always. It's not always a student who's actually enrolled in career tech education that gets their STNA, right? So it's really knowing your students, knowing their interest. It's that individualized graduation plan that can help you identify ways to partner with your business and communities. And then the last one is that community service seal, right? So just depending on your students and what they're doing, I know my daughter is a senior. And since she has been in like 3rd grade, she has volunteered one Sunday a month at the local American Legion. They run a breakfast and she one Sunday a month has been a volunteer there. If someone doesn't ask her about these things at their graduation plan, they'd never know that she's doing these things, right? But that community service seal, she's already gone out and she's made that partnership herself through Girl Scouts. So our local agencies, our community partners like the American Legion, is a way for students to earn some community service seals. But there are lots of things like that. If you have a big Relay for Life event in your community, they need people to help set up. They need people to help tear down. You could partner with them and say, hey, we've got some kids who need community service hours. What do you need? Let's get together and decide how many kids you need, what hours they need to be there. And you partner with those local things where kids can earn some hours to gain your community service seal. And just as a reminder, you know, when thinking about that community service seal, that's a local decision. That's one of the local seals. You as a school district get to determine how many hours a student needs. And I will tell you, I've seen it all over the board. I have seen 6 hours. I've seen 25 hours. I've seen 50 hours, and I have seen 120 hours. That's a vast difference. So whatever you're choosing, make sure that it's achievable by your students, right? Not something that's too easy, but not something that if you wait till senior year with that senior surprise, how in the world are they going to achieve over 100 hours in 1 year? Now, some kids can, but not all kids. So you want to look at really what is achievable, beneficial to the students. Work with your business partners for that community service seal. Think about who in your business area might be able to help you with industry recognized credentials. And then obviously with the Ohio Means Jobs Readiness Seal, there are many agencies that, you know, any of your students who are already employed, they are eligible for that seal. So just keep those things in mind. That's an easy win when it comes to the readiness seal, and it's a double win, right? Because it's a readiness component. It's one of the competency components. So is industry recognized credentials. It's a readiness component, and it's one of the supporting pieces for a competency. And once again, I've linked for you those graduation seals. So competency is the big one today that I want to have a discussion about how to use your business and industry partner, because we're going to come back to Seth, our little friend Seth here. And when you think about a student who does not qualify for alternate assessment, is on at a third grade, fourth grade reading level, right? They're going to have a hard time passing the end of course assessment for English language arts. Some might, but there are definitely, for a kid like Seth, that's going to be a hard one for them to finish, but that's okay because we have these other options, right? Competency is not just Algebra 1 and English at 684. That's our first goal. We're trying for that first. If they don't pass proficient, if they don't get this 684, we remediate, required remediation, and we test again. Don't wait for that second failure to be thinking about other options. You have their scores in middle school to know how well students do on state assessments. That can help you to think about what's the best pathway for this student. To have conversations with them during the graduation planning time about what's their most likely path of success. And for a student like Seth, that career experience and technical skill pathway. I do want to note this has been changed. Originally, I don't know, 7 years ago, this was the career tech option. We stopped calling it that. We called it career focused option. We've stopped calling it that. It's now the career experience and technical skill competency option. That's a mouthful. So I think I'm just going to call it the career competency measure, right? But that is where a student like Seth is likely going to find success. So let's take a look at that, right? So on this website, which was live linked for you, it takes you to those foundational options. You must have 2 of these to be counted for the competency. There are foundational, and you can have 2 foundational, and they're supporting. You cannot have 2 supporting. 1 foundational, 1 supporting, or 2 foundational. Web exams, if they're involved in career tech education, that's where web exams come into play. They will take a total of 4, typically 4 web exams, which is basically an end of course assessment for the career tech courses. And they have to test proficient or higher on 3 or more, but 3 will get them their web exam score of proficient. The 12-point industry credential, that is not specific to career tech education. That can be any 12-point industry recognized credential, a bundle or 1, right? So it does not have to be only students who are enrolled in career tech education. Any school district in Ohio can offer industry recognized credentials. There are students who are getting industry recognized credentials on their own, right? Like I said, gave the example of the state test nursing assistant, the STNA. There are kiddos who are going to achieve that on their own, and maybe the school never even knew that they did that. The other option would be the apprenticeship, approved apprenticeships or pre-apprenticeships. And then they've really been talking about this one more lately, the state issued license. So I'm going to pull that up. It's your industry recognized credentials that are already approved. But there are specific ones that are by the board, right? By the Ohio Department of Safety, by the Ohio Department of Health, by the Ohio State Board of Cosmetology. They're typically 12 points, but you will notice in here, Ohio State Dental Board, if you get your assistant radiographer certificate, that's a 6-point credential. You don't need 12. If you earn just this 6.1, take that back, you obtained this competency measure. But that's just one, right? So for that one, then we're saying you don't need 12 points. You've got the state issued license at a 6-point, but you still need one of these others. So maybe you need the the work-based learning at 250 hours, or maybe the Ohio Means Jobs Readiness Seal, right? So there is so much flexibility and individualization within this, but most of these will take a business partner to help you achieve them. So when we talk about the web exams, right? So that was that first foundational option. That is the only one that requires career tech education. If you have ag ed programs in your school, you have a career tech program, right? And ag ed actually falls under the umbrella of your local CTPD, Career Tech Planning District. And then the 12-point credentials, the apprenticeships, and the state issued license, right? So right here on this screen is everything that you just saw on that page on ODE that I shared with you. The difference being this little disclaimer here. I really appreciate that this is here. For right now, for your WorkKeys assessment, which we don't talk about very much. Not a lot of people are using this option anymore. But for right now, it is a 14. That may be determined to be something different. But again, I would keep your eye on that if you're looking at using it, because it could change. However, most people are now using the readiness seal for the supporting, or even the work-based learning for supporting, and not looking at WorkKeys. I think simply just because it is another test. And sometimes we just have kiddos who don't test well. And I just have a consideration for you at the bottom is, how will we use our community and business partnerships to help students meet the career experience competency if they wish to use it, right? Because you need business partnerships, community partnerships for pretty much all of these except your web exams. So when you look at that 12-point credential, it's not required that you have a business partnership to earn the 12-point credential. But there are ways that maybe students might benefit by using to get that extra hands-on connection to better be prepared to take the assessment that typically goes along with an industry recognized credential. To find the industry recognized credentials, I've linked here, and I'll take you to ODE. You'll see like this, right? And so then we can see for each career field, each of our 16 career pathways, the industry recognized credentials that have been approved, because you have to use approved industry recognized credentials. ODE approves those. They used to do it once a year. They're doing it way more often now. So if you happen to come across an industry recognized credential that you think, oh, this might actually be good for our students, you can submit it for approval to ODE. One that I like to look at, one pathway, is the ag pathway. There are a ton of 12-point credentials in the ag pathway. The Ohio Commercial Driver's License, that's your CDL. See how it's got the little Ohio symbol there? So that's one of them that would be, if you get this one, it counts as the Ohio license. And so that's also a separate competency, and in addition to the 12-point competency. Got some 6 points that we could bundle. We've got some that right here, these leadership ones, right? So your leadership ones may not take a business partner, but maybe your concrete paver installation, there are lots of summer employers, right? Concrete, masonry, landscaping, mowing, right? Where our students may be working in the summer doing some of this work. We as a school system really have had no part in that, but the student may have actually gained the skills that could get them the industry recognized credential through their summer employment. So it really comes to knowing your kiddos, who they're working with in the summer, who they're working with in the school year, and are they in an employment situation that you could use that to say, well, hey, you know, let's talk to your boss and see if he thinks that you would be able to pass this concrete paver assessment, right? And maybe that employer doesn't even know about the IRC, but we could take that opportunity then to partner with them, let them know it exists. And that's another way that we can help our kids to earn industry recognized credentials. So it's that communication with your business partnerships. Aaron, I see you popped on. Did you have a comment or question?
Yeah, kind of a related question came up in the chat. It was asked to clarify, if we use the OMJ seal, do we also need the 250 hours of work-based learning, or are they separate? And then someone else commented to that point, they're linked on the school report card for CCWM. But can you just clarify real quickly for the OMJ readiness seal and then the 250 hours of work-based learning?
Yes.
Are those combined, they separate, or what the
Those are separate things. If you look at the supporting options, right, we've got 250 hours of work-based learning is one separate piece. The work keys is number 2, a separate piece. And the third is the Ohio Means Jobs Readiness Seal. That is not the same as 250 hours of work-based learning. Those are separate things. And you can only have one of those count toward competency. Now, if you're looking toward graduation seals, then it may be different, right? Because the OMJ readiness seal would count toward the seal, the readiness competency, and then it also counts as a supporting option for your competency, right? For your competency connection, the CCR, credits, competency, readiness. The Ohio Means Jobs seal falls under your competency as well as the seal. The work-based learning, so that could fall maybe depending on what you used. It might also fall into the Ohio Means Jobs Readiness seal, right? Whoever they're getting that work-based learning experience with might be one of the mentors to sign off on. So those are connected, but they are two separate things. Does that help? Okay, good. We've got a yes. All right, so we've looked at these seals. We know, like when we talked about the health one, the STNA, yes, you could have coursework that leads to that, especially in a career center, but you wouldn't necessarily need to have that coursework. A student could be employed and their employer could be providing the coursework, and then they could still earn that 12-point credential. When we looked at some of those in the ag system, there are some there that some of our students are already working in that industry, and their boss, their employer, may not know about the industry recognized credential that goes with it. That's an opportunity for us to say, hey, you know, this student does a really good job for you. They're not probably going to get this first competency, but if we would get them the industry recognized credential for your industry, they would achieve graduation. What do you think? Let's look at what's in this test. Do you think that they've got what it takes to take this test? So that's where not necessary for industry recognized credentials to have that business community partnership, but it may be helpful, right? And again, it comes down to that individual student. It comes down to that graduation plan and talking about where are they? What do they need? What are their skills, right? What are they good at, to start thinking about then which industry recognized credential might be a good option for you. Do we have classes that would align to that? Or are there outside agencies that would help you to get that? So if we go back to Seth, our little buddy Seth, I tried to think about how could we find the right industry recognized credentials for this student? How could we make that happen? Because remember, his Career Tech Center does not offer the programs that he would be interested in. It's still doable. It is still doable that this student could earn his 12 points for graduation, his 12 point industry recognized credentials. And there actually are a couple of different ways that could happen. So I wanted to lay that out for you. So if the student is taking, maybe you have ag ed in your own school, right? But it's not a career tech program, but he's got some courses that he's taken. If he's had his driver's license, that's 1 point. We've got hearing and noise protection, head, eye, and face protection, OSHA, safety. These are all safety, which a lot of your agriculture education classes, they're going to go over safety because they have tools in their lab. And so then we're going to go over these safety things. Well, instead of just general safety, we could start to be more intentional in covering the curriculum that 3M has, and then we'd earn some additional industry recognized credentials. They aren't worth a lot of points, but they bundle up together. This student, as we said, they like to be outdoors. So maybe they would like the chainsaw, right? Chainsaw safety awareness. That's 3 points. And then, you know, in ag ed, a lot of times we're talking about leadership and, you know, parliamentary pro, they learn all that stuff. So we could get them the leadership and service industry recognized credential, the leader and me industry recognized credential. But again, I want to stress, like, this is not a senior only try to do it in 1 year. If we're using our graduation plans and we're having conversations with students and every year trying to get them 1 or 2 credentials, then we'll have our 12 points by the time that they're seniors. If you wait until senior year to do all of this, I'm saying it's harder to get it done. It's not impossible, but you're putting extra stress on the student, on the family, on the teachers. Start being more proactive and working toward these things, especially for students who you know are going to need that career-focused career competency measure. Then start looking at that earlier. Start providing opportunities earlier. Start looking to see what's going on in their life. Where are they getting skills outside of school that maybe we could use those to think about some industry recognized credentials? That's one way. Now for Seth, another option might be, and this one involves no test, not exactly. So there is a 12-point credential. It's the Ohio Agribusiness Association credential. And I think this is one of the best kept secrets right now, especially for our ag students. For this one, you have to take a certain number of these courses, but not all of them. So if you look at the click here to download the credential requirements, you're taking 3 of these courses during high school. Complete 3 of these courses. There's 8 of them, just 3. But then they also have to take 2 of these 2. All of that is doable. What becomes a little more the importance of 9th grade through 12th grade, 500 hours. And this is where that business partnership could really come into play. So we have this student, we have Seth, and they're really good at working outside. They love to work outside, have a great work ethic. We've got some local farmers who might take on a student for the summer, baling hay, cleaning out the stalls, running the combine, whatever. 500 hours over 4 years for some students, not a big deal. But we have to journal all that. Your agriculture ed teachers, they will know this. They will know what the SAE is. They may not know that it's a 12-point credential. They may not know that it's a competency measure. Your local farmers, if you don't have them on your business advisory boards, I might get one on my local business advisory board, because this is a very doable 12-point credential for our students like Seth, who are interested in working outdoors, who are interested in ag education, but who do not qualify for alternate assessment. This is a great option for a kid like Seth, but it takes probably a business partnership. Unless, of course, they already live on a farm, but we know not all kids do, right? That's kind of a small portion of our population for most of us. So definitely reach out to your local community. There are like farming associations, even your local 4-H extension agent, reach out to them and say, hey, you know, we just learned about this new certification that's out there. Do you have any big farmers who might want to hire some kids? Do you have anybody in our town who you think would be a good fit to partner with us on us? It just takes making a few phone calls to get things set up for a student, or informing the student, hey, go out there and talk to your people at church, to your local people at the coffee shop, right? Because I know some of these kiddos, and even though they're 16-year-olds, they act like they're 60-year-olds. They know the old farmers. Help them to see that they could use their relationships with those old farmers to earn graduation. Use your local business partners, even though when you think business partner, that may not be who you're thinking about. The next one for the foundational would be apprenticeships. I can't talk a lot about these because you have to work through Apprentice Ohio to earn or to have the right partnerships for pre-apprenticeships count for that foundational piece. You have to have the paperwork done. They have to be approved. So I can take you to the link and show you where that's at, where you can learn more here, where they've got places for you to contact and get that started, right? I'm interested for them. Contact us. You have to go here and get this process started. It actually, if a student completes an Apprentice Ohio apprenticeship, it also becomes a 12-point credential. So this is a really good one to have. It absolutely takes that business partnership, the two of you filling out paperwork together, working with Apprentice Ohio to get them to be an approved apprenticeship. You may already have some in your area that you don't know about. Contact Apprentice Ohio, tell them where you're located, ask which ones are available in your area. If you have a local employer who's a pretty big employer, or even a small mom and pop shop who you know typically has hired a kid or two every year, talk to them about apprenticeships. See if they'd be willing to become an approved apprenticeship through the Apprentice Ohio program. It's a foundational. It's also a 12-point industry recognized credential. Business partnership is required for an apprenticeship. Now, if you're thinking, oh, that's a lot for us to take on, we don't have the manpower to create this apprenticeships, maybe just work-based learning might be a better option for you. Work-based learning, you can track those hours 9th through 12th grade. 250 hours for work-based learning, 9th through 12th grade. Very doable. Very doable if you're tracking it over the years. Also doable if you wait till senior year, but much harder. Start being proactive. Start having these conversations, getting these things in place. You do need business partnerships. Those could be ones that you as a school system help create, or they could be ones where you're telling your students, this is an option for you. Go out and find the employer who will work with you, and let's start logging your hours. Right? This doesn't all have to be all the work of the school. You could put some of this, and I'm saying some, not all, some of this on the student, but it does have to have that business partnership. And again, I've got this link here, framework to issue credit for work-based learning. I want to stress, this is intended for everyone. This is not just students enrolled in career tech education. I sat in a graduation boot camp session just last Friday. And the person I was sitting with was like, what? Our kids can do that? Yes, right? This is not just career tech. This is for all students. It's available to them to use. It is not foundational. It is supporting. So you still have to have a foundational and then you add supporting, but it does require that business partnership. And there are lots of ways to earn work-based learning hours, and they all 250 hours do not have to be in the same bucket. All 250 hours do not have to be outside of the school or outside of the school day, right? So off-site placement, internships, absolutely. Apprenticeships, pre-apprenticeships, absolutely. That's all off campus. But you could allow for entrepreneurship, school-based enterprise. You have a spirit store, work-based learning hours. You have a morning coffee shop, work-based learning hours. You have a greenhouse? Let kids use your greenhouse during whatever hours you are going to allow. Let them grow their legal things in your greenhouse and sell them. Entrepreneurship, that becomes work-based learning. Virtual, you could do that last period of the day, last 2 periods of the day, first period of the day, first 2 periods of the day. Let them work on a computer in your building virtually for a remote job, and that counts, right? So it's not just the experience. There is some paperwork that goes with it. There is definitely tracking that goes with it. But there are so many options here, and you could maybe as a freshman, I'm doing the remote 1 period a day. I'm doing data entry for someone. Maybe I'm doing it for the school. I don't know, but I'm getting those hours. But then maybe as a junior, I take an ag ed program and we're in the greenhouse and I love it. And I'm like, hey, I could grow spring flowers and make some money off of this. Or the little plants that are so popular right now, I can't even think of the name of them, right? That people are creating little fairy gardens, right? I can create some fairy gardens and sell those from the greenhouse. And I can do that as an entrepreneurship and count those hours. Here's the 2-page info sheet. It's this thing right here that goes over all of that. But in order to do this, you must have the business learner agreement form. So if you're doing it with a school and you're doing the entrepreneurship experience, you still need someone who's in that industry who's willing to say to the kid, yeah, I'll check in on you. Yeah, you can contact me for questions. Let's agree that you're going to do these certain things, these skills you're going to work on, and I'm going to check in on you. It doesn't say every day. It could just be once a month. It could be quarterly. Maybe it's someone who's an entrepreneur themselves and just gives them business advice, but you need that business learner agreement form. You need that outside business mentor. And whatever they're doing for work-based learning, it must be connected to their graduation plan or their student success plan. So if I say that I really think I'm going to go to the ag pathway, I intend to have a job in ag industry, I would have that in my graduation plan, and that becomes connected. So I can count those hours where I'm building or making things in the greenhouse to sell, because that's connected. If all of my graduation plan is about that kind of thing, I'm at heart, I'm an ag kid and I want to work in the agriculture industry. But then I put down for my work-based learning, McDonald's. I don't know that that's really connected, unless you're looking to earn your OMJ seal and you need to grow some of your professional skills, right? Those employability skills instead of industry skills, well, then maybe it is connected. So just make sure that you can connect those work-based learning experiences to the graduation plan or the student success plan. Now, once they are enrolled in Career Tech Education, their hours then must be connected to that program. That is not the same prior to that, right? So only when it becomes a Career Tech student does it have to be connected to their Career Tech program. Right, and I just want to remind you, you can give high school credit for work-based learning hours. The state law from 2018-2019 says that that's possible. There's a framework for issuing work-based learning credit, and you should have that in board adopted policy. Can be part of your flex credit, but you have to be able to offer work-based learning for high school credit. There are a ton of resources out there for you. You don't have to create all of this new. There's a bunch of samples out there for you. So let me take you really quick. We're not going to watch Cassie's little video, but you could. It talks about the benefits, guidelines, how do we get started? How do we find partnerships? You can look here to find some partnerships if you want. But if you don't want to have to type up all these things, learner agreement is right here. Pull that up. Yeah. That's what it could look like. Learning outcomes. You put some competencies in there, things the student should be working on, things that that mentor is going to check on, give advice on, give feedback on. You talk about how often are you going to meet with your mentor? Quarterly, bi-weekly, bi-monthly, at the end of the experience. So there's no specific way this has to be done, except that you need this form. This is a required part. That's your work-based learning agreement form. Okay, again, that live link takes you to the work-based learning site. You scan all the way down and you've got all these different resources for you to use. You do not have to create all of this stuff all on your own. A bunch of things already exist for you. But you must have that outside partner. Absolutely required for work-based learning. You must have it connected to your graduation plans, your student success plans, or Career Tech Education, because you're putting in what are they supposed to learn. It's not just that they're going out and working. The intent of work-based learning is to learn, to gain skills. So we want to be intentional in thinking about what is to be learned from this experience. And then how are you going to track all of this? 250 hours, 9th through 12th grade. It's a lot. I won't say that it's not. You have to have a system for tracking, for reporting. And there are companies that exist. You can pay them. They'll do it for you. Transio, Major Clarity, Seamless, all of those are companies that exist. But you also have here in Region 1, a really great educational partner, Oregon Clay, Becky and Val. They have created this Google form. You can make a copy of it. The kid fills it out. He talks, you have to teach them what are the different work-based learning, those 6 buckets, that handout the ODE has. Who's my mentor? This will just keep tallying up their hours. If you have a student who's doing work-based learning, Have them once a week sit down and fill this out for you. Summer hours count. They can fill this out and just keep dumping it into this document, right? So this is a great resource. Oregon Clay has been fabulous in working with other schools. They have videos on how to do this. So if you're interested, I'm sure you could reach out to them. But you may just be able to make a copy of this if you are experienced enough with Google Forms that all you need is the copy and you're good. It's here for you. That's a way to track it, because you have to track it, not only for the student for graduation, but it's also part of EMIS reporting for your grade cards. So this is a nice thing for the kids, but also for every student who earns that 250 hours. It's a good thing for your school. And I see Lauren put in the chat what they're using, very friendly and affordable. So thank you, Lauren, for sharing that one, because I had not heard of that one. But you have to track it. And then just something to think about, if you have a student with disabilities who's using the work-based learning, just make sure you're following the laws on that. I've linked this here for you because they're a little bit different when it comes to students with disabilities. We want to make sure they're not being taken advantage of, not working hours and no income or lower income. So there are rules regarding that, and make sure that you're aware of those. I have them linked here for you. I've covered a lot so far. Are there any questions?
We did have one question come out of Leslie, so other people prepare theirs if they have them. The question came up. Question here. So as long as the work-based learning hours connect to their graduation plan, is there no connection to the specific course outcomes necessary? And I think this is specifically in regards to CTE students.
Well, and the course outcomes would be what skills are they trying to obtain, right? So that's when you go back to that learner agreement form, right? What you are connecting that to some kind of skills, whether it be skills from, and you can pull up, even though if you're not career tech, you could still pull up their learning standards, right? So they have student outcomes, and you could use those depending on what industry it is. You could use science. Maybe you could use English if you've got a kid who's working for the newspaper, if you've got art. So you could still use standards and outcomes, because it has to be about skill. They're learning something. So you just have to pull those up, right? And that's where maybe the teacher could help you to identify which ones would be the right ones. Okay, but yes, there has to be a learning outcome. You're not just working to work, you're working to learn. Hopefully that answered that. Any other questions?
I also did drop a link in there. Well, not an endorsement, a link to the resource that Lauren shared as well. The 2x2vol, or but there's probably some hip way to say that. I'm not saying it, but that is also in the chat as well.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing that, Lauren, and thanks for finding it, Aaron. All right, so now we talk about the Ohio Means Jobs Readiness Seal. This one has been around for a while. It's definitely getting more traction. I wish it had gotten that kind of traction 4 or 5 years ago. This is a good thing for our students to have. It says, hey, this kid, they might be a better candidate for this position that you're looking at. They've earned this readiness seal. We know, right, from the requirements for the readiness seal that they are ready to work. They can take some initiative. They come on time, right? So yes, normally you need a business partnership with this, normally, but not always. So if you think about my daughter, who as a freshman had not had a job, but she'd been volunteering at the American Legion 1 Sunday a month for years. Someone there right? One of the veterans who's there the same Sunday a month would have been more than happy to be her mentor. She shows up. She cleans tables with a smile. She's willing to walk out there with a plate full of food and yell a number so that that person who has that ticket number raises their hand and she delivers it. She's not intimidated by that. This kid's going to be a good worker. She's not yet employed, but she could have had all those signatures because of her volunteer experience. So Ohio Means Jobs Readiness Seal, very doable for all of our students. Something to take a look at, maybe being more intentional at talking to students about this seal. Maybe it's something for your business advisory councils, which are required, letting them know what that seal looks like, right? And what the signature page looks like and how they could help students. The other community service seal, again, I think this is a really good one for your local business and communities. So for the business partnerships, not required, but certainly it happens most of the time, right? Because we're usually doing a service for an agency. Not always. Sometimes that volunteering is for a person or for the school. But maybe you are, I know we have a great big industry, a steel plant in my area, and they have a volunteer day. So maybe your kids are partnering and doing things for that volunteer day for that industry. Okay, well, you've partnered with them to say, how can we get involved? Where can our kids help? Maybe your park system could use some extra volunteers. So you're building those partnerships and offering up, you know, instead of having a job board in your hallway, maybe you have volunteers needed and you list the agencies that have events happening and what they need help with, and kids can just, you know, take the number and call them and volunteer. There are ways that you can help students to make connections with your business partnerships. But in that example, your business and community partnerships would need to know that you're willing to partner with them. So you need to have some communication with those local businesses and industries. Maybe you send out a letter. Maybe you attend a local meeting, right? Where your local businesses, you know, they get together once a month for coffee. Maybe you attend that and talk about, hey, this is what graduation looks like right now. We would love for you to partner with us. Here are some ways that we could partner with you. Let me know if you're interested, right? So we have to have that communication piece happening. Any questions about the community service seal, the Ohio Means Jobs Readiness Seal? Any questions on those? Right.
We do
Can
have
the
one
students,
question.
yep,
Oh,
I see. Yep.
yeah, okay.
Can the students use the hours for both work-based learning and community service if it is a volunteer position? I think that that is doable, right? As long as you've got the learner agreement and the skills that are being learned, it counts as work-based learning. And then if it's a service that's being provided and they're not being paid for it, then it becomes community service. If they're being paid, it does not count as volunteer. That's not community service. But if they're not being paid and they're providing the service and they're learning something while doing it, then you could double dip. Good question. All right. So let's talk about how to engage these business partners then to get this all done. Business advisory councils are required by law. Your school has to have one. And I have a feeling they have one. And maybe they meet twice a year. You want to move them from compliance to impact. We need to find ways to get them in our schools, to get our kids to them. So it's not just a board that's coming together and saying, yep, we agree with that. Okay, we'll see you again and next semester, right? We want more than that. So yes, you have to have them, but let's get past that, just having them. This is a great resource. It's a 9-page document. It's a live link for you. And it really goes through setting up your business advisory boards, how to find members, right? So your local chambers of commerce, your business and industry associations, maybe your ESC can have some help with this. Your leadership team might think about who are their connections, right? Who's donating to your sports programs, right? Because you've got businesses in your community that's buying ads to have their name up, right, on your football stadiums or in your programs. Maybe they want to do more than just buy your ad. Right? So then we've got selection and duties. We've got information about the Sunshine Law, orientation of members, right? So you're talking about what is the purpose of our business advisory. We're going to talk about how often we're going to meet. This says Ohio law requires once per quarter. I would probably want to meet more than that if I'm looking for more impact. You could have subcommittees. Maybe you want to have some bylaws. So really good stuff. But what I like is this, to start thinking about, instead of them being the person who comes and just, here's what's going on and says, great job, keep it up, school. Will you help with our job fair? Would you do some job shadowing? How about some internships? Would you consider mentoring? Do you know some of your employees who might make good mentors? It gives you suggestions on ways that they can partner with you. That's what we want to happen, right? So this is a really good resource for you to use. SuccessBound is also another good resource. So if you go to the SuccessBound webpage, it steps us through, right? The need, preparing, design, and developing. This is another really good resource that you could use to really, I know you already have business advisory councils, but are they functioning that students are getting engaged with them? And if not, go back through these steps. Try to see what you could do different for better engagement. And really, I think this is important when you think about, and I'm not going to play these videos because I know we're running out of time. We had Kevin Fleming here in Region 1 in June. And this is his video, Success in the New Economy, right? This 1-to-7 ratio. For all the jobs that are out there, 7 of them are skilled trades. These ones are the ones that require college degrees. There are more jobs out there that require industry recognized credentials, skilled trades training. This is where we need to start making sure our kids are getting some experience. Even if they end up here, they should have some exposure to the skilled trades. You can do that through your local business and industry, right? Only 32% of jobs require a 4-year degree or higher. But yet 66% of our graduates enroll in college, and only about half of those actually graduate college. So really start to think about doing things differently. Some other ways that you could talk to your business partners about partnering, right? So this is 17 different ways schools can partner with businesses. Using these, trying to check off some of these. What do you currently have going on? What could you add, right? I think these field trips are a great starter, like in maybe 6th, 7th, 8th grade. Look through these. What do you currently have? What can you add this year? When's your next business advisory council meeting? Can you go to it and ask if we can try to add, right? Can we add manufacturing day? How about having some class visits for career days? And then just thinking about as you're adding some new things. What do you add at what grade level? So using that Career Connections framework, right? K-5, it's just about awareness. So maybe that's where people come in and they talk about what career they have and they wear the clothes they would wear to that industry. Give some talks, read some books, right? Right to Read Week. What a great time to invite your business advisory to come in and read a book about their industry to the students, K-5. That would not be appropriate 9 to 12. 6 to 8 is that exploration. That's where maybe the field trips would be a really good thing to do. And then 9 through 12, that's our planning, decision-making, right? We are trying in the interested in. We are interviewing someone from that industry. So really being more intentional about connecting to what I plan to do, right? What I think I'm good at, and those experiences with our business and industry partners. Use that Career Connections framework to help you pick what grade level is best for each activity. Another Design and Develop is another resource you could use to improve your business advisory partnerships. So again, this one kind of looks at what's our need, how can we develop it, how can we implement and evaluate it. Another really good resource from SuccessBound to just make your business advisory next level, right? Business Advisory Council 2.0. Let's increase what we're doing. Let's make more impact with what we're doing. Let's support graduation with our business and advisory councils. And then here's examples from all across the state. Now, some of these are getting to be a little older. This has been up for a while, but I still think they're worth looking at. So they're promising practices, things that other schools have implemented. So you can read through that, right? And get ideas on how you could do the same. I encourage you to take a look at this one, at any of these. Barberton High School, again, this video, we're running short on time because I want to make sure I leave time for questions at the end. This is also a really good video to watch. Aaron, if you could put the link in chat for them in case they want to watch it later. He steps you through how he got it started, right? And so what I like to point out from Barberton is he just reached out to local businesses. He just reached out. Hey, I'd like to have more interaction with our students with you. Why don't you come to a meeting and let's talk about what that could look like? And what it ended up looking like was the local businesses came in and took a tour and then worked with staff to develop some curriculum. And they used probably their PBIS, be respectful, be responsible, be ready, and connected that to employability, to thinking about the future and that you'll be out working in industry. And you need to be responsible and respectful and ready, right? So this is a really good example. Erica, do you have a question?
I just want to say, as you were going through that if anybody is interested in doing something like that and you're already reaching out to your businesses, we have curriculum already ready to go that you don't have to make anything up. And it's already connected to standards, and we're connecting some of them to industry recognized credentials, and we're connecting them to hopefully the work or OMJ seal. Just want to throw that out there real quick.
That is awesome. You want to tell them what agency you work with?
Yeah, sorry. I work for Junior Achievement.
Yes.
So we have some locally created curriculum that's been connected to standards and approved by JAUSA. But then we also have stuff that's just already been created, and it focuses on either work and career readiness, entrepreneurship, or financial literacy.
So, and I'll put a plug in for them as well. Junior Achievement, we sat down with them to learn a little bit more, Aaron and I walked away going, oh my gosh, they really have evolved. Like Junior Achievement is not what you think of when you think of what Junior Achievement used to be 10 years ago. They're seeing all of this, right? The need for business partnerships with schools and they are really working at building things and making it easier for schools. So yeah, shout out to them. I think they're doing great things and you should be in contact with them.
Sorry, a little selfish plug there.
No problem. That's why we have these meetings. You know, and again, we've got all those resources on ODE. You do not have to build this, right? You don't have to reinvent the wheel. The wheel is already there for you. ODE's website, this link takes you to all of this information. Resources are there. Just use them, start the work, start small, build momentum, right? What is, Aaron, what you're saying? Start small, scale fast.
Yeah, start small and scale fast.
Yeah, right. But start. You've got to get it started. It's got to be more than just your business advisory coming together 2 times a year, 4 times a year for a meeting. We need more active engagement. And it doesn't necessarily have to be the people at the table. They might have suggestions on other businesses in the area that would be good fits for things, right? So if you took to your business advisory council, a Seth, you know, not actually bringing the kid, but saying, hey, we have this student, he really likes being out and working outside. Do you guys have any suggestions on who we could contact to try to get him some work-based learning? You might be surprised at the connections that your business partners have to other businesses in your area. And then I have to share, I think Ohio Virtual is on this call. They do a great job in communicating with their business advisory boards. I think this newsletter goes out monthly. And I'm just really impressed with the things that they are putting in their newsletter. They've included that Kevin Fleming video. They're talking at the end of the year about which industry credentials that they offered and how many students completed those credentials. If they've got clubs and organizations, how students are doing in those clubs. So just really good information, sending it out. Look at this work-based learning hours, right? They pick their top kids. Oh, look, they're right there's the company that they're using to track that. We have a student who earned 700 plus hours. That's amazing, right? That's to be celebrated. We've got some quotes here. This is from their career advisory, right? This is from their career tech department, but this could be any school system could send out a newsletter like this to their local businesses. Also on here, I know it's here somewhere, there's a link about right here. We need your experience. Would you be willing to be a guest speaker, an apprenticeship, virtual job shadowing, internships, volunteering, mentoring? If so, click below, right? This is great. Communicate with your businesses. Let them know what you have going on. Let them know what you need. And then follow this process, right? What do you need? What's your target? What's your plan of action? How are you going to monitor it? I have for you business advisory self-review. So if you want to look at, this is from Hans Meter. He was also here in June. You know, have you talked about the job duties of your business advisory members? Do you have bylaws? Are you having an agenda at every meeting? Does that agenda have an action item? Like, I love this, organized in a way that leads to action and achievement of goals. That should be on your agenda every time you're meeting with your business advisory. Right? So it just has you think about, this is what makes a good advisory. What does yours look like? What are you missing? What do you need? This here, number of members, minimum of 8, maximum of 25. I would not go 25. That's a lot, right? Because you want people to have a voice, but it's active members. Are they showing up? Are they engaging? If not, dismiss them. have a 3-year rotation. So this is a tool you can use to evaluate your current business advisory. Then I like this tool as well from Hans. At each grade level, right? Do we have a career and industry fair? What grades is that for? Are we allowing for career interviews? What grades are doing career interviews? Career advising policy, career advising activities, all of these, documentation. This is a great tool that you could use not only to evaluate what do you currently have, what do you need, but it could be your documentation tool of what you have going on at every grade level to make sure you have something happening at every grade level, 6 through 12, career advising policy. But all of this takes a business community partnership to make happen. And then don't forget about OOD. I know Erin's going to talk more in our next session with transition planning with Fidelity. And I'm sure OOD will come into play, right? Our opportunities for Ohioans with disabilities will be part of that presentation. I think they're going to be part of our implementation session, which is January 10th. So don't forget about them. If you have students with disabilities, make sure that you're making them aware of that as well. Right? Because the purpose is to help people with disabilities get and keep competitive integrated community employment. That's why they exist. We should be using them. All right, so we are finished, and I know I threw a lot in there, didn't leave a lot of time for questions, but we do have some time for questions. Does anybody have any questions?
I'm going to put the link to the PowerPoint in here one more time because you can download it right off of this link. Lisa, will the link also be sent in the follow-up email to the slides?
Sure, we can do that. Yep.
And then
it was recorded, so if you want the recording, we will be putting it up on our website under transition. So check there in about a week, and it will be there for you if you want to review it or if you want to show it to some people. But again, lots of resources in here, folks. Make sure that you're pulling up whichever one spoke to you and using that to revitalize your business advisory councils.
I do have I guess it's a quick question, but it'll probably be one that I'll have to chat with you and Erin about it another time. So real quick, we have a business group that's going to be creating curriculum for us, and it's focused specifically on the criteria in the rubric for the OMJ seal.
Yes.
So I wanted to ask, I guess, because I know the students kind of have, so they have to have the mentor for that, and they have to be able to show that they're able to be reliable and punctual and all of that. So is an actual learning experience where a business person comes into the classroom to talk to the students about those type of expectations still something that's valuable, even though it's not going to 100% prove that they can those competencies?
Well, I think it depends on, if you look at the rubric, and I just put a Padlet in the chat for OMJ, because if you're looking at building curriculum, again, I don't want you to reinvent the wheel when there's already a bunch of stuff that already exists that you could pull from. So I put a Padlet in the chat for you, but I'm going to go back, or at least pull up, and we will look at the OMJ rubric.
Yeah, because we have looking at, I think there's 10 to 12 criteria on that rubric, and right now we're good on 4 of them. A lot of our learning experiences do a lot with teamwork, collaboration, just communication, written and oral, all of that stuff. But the other stuff we don't work with a ton, and digital technology, that one is something that we're definitely going to be doing a session on, because we're going to focus on how to use social media to your advantage, how to use it appropriately, all of that.
So that may be you're providing information, but when you're looking at, is the student proficient, right, at that, then you have to have evidence of the skill. So you've taught it. Now they can go out somewhere, whether it's within the school system that a teacher could sign it or with an employer, because they do have to have 3 separate mentors.
Okay.
So I think that's the, the part that you could say, like, we're going to give you this information. We expect you to go out and use this information. Your behavior should show that you know this information. And then there are the mentors that would be signing off on, they've witnessed this in the student.
Yeah, it has to be 3 mentors in 2 different locations as well.
Yeah.
But what you're talking about, I think, Erica, would be that good prep work for that, combining it perhaps with that that rubric for mentors to determine if they've demonstrated proficiency or not. Could help kind of guide those discussions.
Yeah, so because obviously the eventual goal also is that whatever business individual is in there teaching has a few internships or jobs or something at the end of that students who are interested in with that company or career or whatnot would be able to participate in, to be able to hopefully gain those skills. But obviously it's not always guaranteed that that's going to be an option or available. But I just wanted to quickly kind of ask that and see what your thoughts were on it, because we haven't truly started working on the curriculum yet. We're just kind of in the beginning phases of going over the rubric and having conversations.
Yeah. I would think that learning about it in itself isn't enough evidence for the signature, but learning it helps you then to implement that learning somewhere else where someone would then give you the signature.
Yeah, to go earn that signature. Right.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So I put in the chat as well, the signature page, which there's a, evidence of how I demonstrated the skill. So what you're teaching them might be what they could put here is what they know they do because of that learning. And then someone would say, oh yes, their mentor would say, yes, I would agree. I've seen the student do this. And then they sign. Does that help?
Yes, thank you. Yeah, I think we're going to work. In my head, we need to work on ways to tie it to finding a mentor or tie it to, and maybe it could be even a job that they currently have. And how can we make sure that what they're doing is being tied to that so they can easily find a mentor that we don't necessarily always have to find.
Absolutely.
Right.
Absolutely.
That's where that partnership piece comes in again. Yeah, absolutely.
Any other questions?
Question, Eric, you might be able to answer real quick. Someone's asking, is there a junior achievement group in Sandusky, Seneca, or Wood County?
I'm sorry, was the question, is there a JA office in Sandusky?
Yeah, an office, or do you serve Sandusky, Seneca, Wood, or?
So we specifically, our office does Seneca and Wood, or I'm sorry, Sandusky and Wood. I would have to check on Seneca. I'm not sure if that's us or if that's Northern Ohio office that does that one, but I can check. Oh, no, we do that one because Tiffin is in Seneca, correct?
I believe so.
I believe Tiffin's in Seneca. Then yes,
yes.
Our office does handle all 3 of those counties.
What about?
Go ahead, Lisa. Sorry.
Yeah, I would say, what about Hancock County? Is that you as well?
That one I would have to check. I think that's a little south of our area, but that's not to say that either we couldn't help that school and or individual, or we would be able to talk to the JA area office and let them know. All the JA area offices in Ohio do similar things, but we really tailor it and focus it to what kind of works best for our community and what we hear the needs are. But everybody's heading in the direction of doing more with middle and high school instead of elementary anyways. So I know that a lot of our career discovery events, the JA Inspire that people are doing, they're focusing a little bit more instead of just specifically for 8th grade. They're going a little bit more 11th, 12th to try to help it be also a hiring event along with a discovery event. So I know that's what we do and what some of the other areas are doing as well. So if it's not us specifically, I can always connect that person to exactly who handles that county. Or if it's just like one school, the other county or the other JA office may say, oh, it's okay, go ahead and work with them. So it just kind of depends.
And Erica's email is in the chat as well. So if you'd like to help with Erica, she's been a wonderful resource and good community partner to chat with.
Thank you. Yeah, sorry, I'm driving, so I'm not able to like write a bunch in there.
No, you're fine. We got it. It's in there. So thank you for that.
Mhm.
Any
So-
other questions? All right, well then I will say goodbye and have a good day. Remember, all kinds of resources were live linked for you in this presentation. Pull some out, use them to evaluate your current practices, to add some things to make better impact with your businesses for purposes of graduation.
And December, we
great
have
day.
transition plan with Fidelity. So we'll see you then. Thank you, everybody. And if anyone's sticking around, we're here for a quick minute.